Hey up, so welcome back. Now, fitting a sump guard or bash plate to the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. First job, take off the seat. Now, first off, an apology for my own incompetence on the last video about fitting these here stainless steel mud guards. The mounting points that you can see there, you might recall that I dared to suggest that the OEM washers were not sufficient in diameter and kept dropping down those there holes in the subframe that you can see. That was my bad. There are some rubber inserts that go underneath, which I omitted to replace and which Dan from Hitchcock's very kindly and quite correctly pointed out should be there and would thereby facilitate said OEM washers without any problems. So my fix was not a fix, and if it had been a fix, it'd have been a fix for a problem that didn't exist. Anyway, never mind all that old twaddle. Let's get my bit of the toes up there removed and let's secure the correct configuration for this part of the mounting process. And it brings home an absolute truth that if you're a very poor spanner man like me, no endeavour will ever be without omissions, oversights and general cock-ups, and this was no exception. So there we go. After a bit of fumbling about, those are the rubber grommets stroke washers, what should have been put back by me in the first place. So there you go. So ignore the advice on that last video. I was talking clanger, shall we say. For those of you that remember the clangers, I might as well have been whistling. So those are the correct, nice, thick, robust and meaty Royal Enfield washers, which now atop those rubber grommets will fit perfectly. So that's that sorted. Let's move on to fitting the sump guard stroke bash plate. Right, first off, to enable you to fit the retaining brackets for the bash plate, unfortunately you're going to have to drop down both exhausts. And to do that, first of all, you're going to need to loosen off and remove the two 12mm, i.e. 12mm socket required, retaining nuts that secure the exhaust headers into place there. So just remove those and pop them somewhere safe. And the next job, you can see there I'm cable tying around the exhaust header and temporarily securing it to the horn bracket. Now this is to stop the whole thing dropping down when you remove the rest of the bolts. Next job, get yourself over to the middle of the exhaust there and you'll see a mounting point in the middle of the bike there, and that's another 12mm bolt which is threaded into the frame through that rubber boss with a metal top that you can see there. So you just need to unscrew and pop out that bolt so that the middle section of the exhaust becomes free. And just give that a final twiddle there with the socket to make life easier for yourself. Right, now turn your attention to the rear of the exhaust, and I recommend you put a box or something underneath the silencer to prevent it dropping down and creating a whole world of pain for yourself. And that's another 12mm bolt. And this one is not threaded into the frame. There is a retaining bolt behind which will be either 12mm or 13mm depending upon whether you've fitted some aftermarket exhaust, as you can see I have here. So just a matter of loosening that bolt there, removing the nylock retaining bolt at the rear and supporting the exhaust silencer on a box or a rolled up blanket, or a pet rabbit, or whatever else you may have at hand for the purpose. So underneath where you removed the middle mounting bolt for the exhaust, you will find 2 Allen bolts which require an 8mm Allen spanner to remove them, and they are held in place at the back with 2 captive nuts on a backing plate, and you need to remove both the bolts and the backing plate, and keep that backing plate safe in case you want to return the bike to its original spec at a later date. And there you can see the replacement mounting plate from the kit for the bash plate, and secure that new plate in place using the original bolts. And at this stage, just do them up finger tight, because you're going to need a little bit of wriggle room later to make sure that everything matches up. So that was the left hand side of the bike. Now turning our attention to the right hand side, and again removing the 2 exhaust header retaining nuts, for which you will require again that 12mm socket and an extension bar to get you into the one at the bottom there. So just crack those off and unscrew them completely, put them somewhere safe. And once again, that centrally mounted support, and again your 12mm socket to remove that bolt, which is threaded into the frame. No retaining bolt at the back, just that rubber bushing that you can see in the middle there. So crack off that bolt, remove it, stick it somewhere safe, and that's the central part of the exhaust freed. And now again to the rearmost exhaust support, and again your 12mm socket at the front and your 12 or 30mm retaining locking nut at the back. So again, remove those and pop them somewhere safe. And now on the right hand side in the middle there, just the 1 Allen bolt requiring your 8mm Allen spanner, and this time at the rear of there is just a locking nut, single locking nut, not a captive nut on a plate. So just remove those 2 items and pop them somewhere safe for now. So now time to fix the right hand side fixing bracket that you can see there, again using the Allen bolt that you've just removed. However, no need for the retaining nut at the back this time, because there is a captive nut in the back of that bracket. So pop it in there so that the other captive nut faces downwards, and that's going to be the fixing point for the bash plate. Right, really sorry, but fitting the central mounting bracket is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to film due to the angles involved, but just a matter of removing the 2 lower nuts there, in my case, which also affix the engine bars. And once they are removed, the gap underneath, just below the oil filter there, is where you can fix that mounting, as you can probably just about see there once I remove my fat hand. There we are, that's how it needs to be. And there you can see that central bracket in place. The bolts should only be finger tight at this point, so that you have some wriggle room right across the 3 mounting points. So now it's time to offer up the sump guard. And there you can see exactly why those exhausts need to be dropped down. So supplied with the kit are these 2 Allen bolts, complete with thread lock. The ones for the front there obviously screw into the captive nuts at the rear of that central mounting plate, so no retaining nut required. The same will be true at the back, as we shall see, but unlike the front, you will need a couple of washers, again supplied with the kit. So just do those up finger tight for the time being. Right, time to secure the rear of the bash plate to the two mounting plates. There on the left hand side, a little bit awkward for me to get to there. You'll need the Allen bolt and the washer, which you can see just by my elbow there. And you're just about to see me throw myself to the ground to be able to get access to that fixing. And then you need to pop round to the other side of the bike and do exactly the same on the right hand side mounting plate. Again, just finger tight at this stage. Okay, so once you are happy, and only when you are happy that everything fits as it should, you need to go around methodically, nay forensically, and ensure every single bolt is fully tightened up. I'll not give you the torque settings, you can find those out easily enough online. But you need to ensure that everything is tightened up. That includes the mounting brackets, the fixing points, and any other nuts, bolts and other fastenings that are needed to secure everything in place. So don't forget, you've got the mounting brackets to tighten up on the left and the right hand side, the mounting bracket to tighten up at the front, and then of course you have the fixing points, the 4 fixing points, 2 at the front, 2 at the rear of the bash plate itself, to tighten up, to make sure that everything is secure. And then and only then can you undertake the onerous but straightforward task of replacing all the fastenings and fixings for the exhausts. And let me just tell you, in my case, and probably my case only, putting those exhausts back was an absolute nightmare. It took forever because I have the Jivet pannier frame system mounted to the rear, and that attaches to the rearmost exhaust mounting point, and the whole thing was completely out of line. I should have realised, but there we go. Not a problem that you should encounter, but if you do have those fitted, please beware. Okay, hope that was of some interest to you. If it was, please click a like, please click a subscribe. That was the fitting of the sump guard stroke bash plate from Hitchcock's to the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650, and what a cracking piece of kit that sump guard is, as you can see there, affording a lot of protection around the oil filter and the bottom of the engine there. So highly recommend that to you. Until the next time, relevant links in the description below. Ride safe, keep it shiny side up, and I'll see you soon. Toodle pip.